Welcome to Santa Pod Raceway. We've got all the ingredients to upset every drag racer in the country this weekend. We've got rain, we've got high winds, and it's the first of the international Doorslammers. It's caused havoc with the racing here, but we've seen a great day's qualifying. Let's have a look and see what went on. Of our international Doorslammers from Santa Pod, and the big class to open up our qualifying, Pro Modifieds. The mix of door slamming cars capable of running the quarter mile in 6 seconds at 200 miles per hour. And our first pair qualifying, Dave Mingay from Great Britain, a 0.54 reaction time for him, 7.25 on the run. But there was a big explosion for the man in the opposing lane. Switzerland's Peter Wacker suffers a nitrous oxide explosion, which removes the hood from the bonnet, really doing some damage to the bodywork. Bert Englefield from Great Britain in his Toyota Supra, and joined by Michael Bjork, one of our overseas visitors here for this meeting from Sweden in his Camaro. But Bert Englefield on a charge here this weekend, records a good qualifying time, 7.03, 7.20 for the Camaro. This is Michael Cheeley from the West Midlands in the UK with his Vauxhall Calibra. 500 cubic inches makes it one of the smallest in the class, seen here running alongside Dave Mingay once more. And Mike Cheeley's time of 8.00 seconds gets him the number 8 qualifying spot. Well, we've got quite a few overseas visitors from Switzerland. Closest to the camera, Marcus Hilt. Furthest away, Rolf Amann with that beautiful 30s Chevrolet Coupe. That is a stunning looking machine. Both of these cars running supercharged engines. Just look at Rolf Amann, he's all over the show. Records a 7.94 but damages the engine past repair, so he doesn't make the final 8. Another man in the similar position, Ulf Andersson from Sweden with his Camaro. Huge wheels up away from the start line. Records an 8.42, again not into the final 8. So our international Doorslammers producing some great qualifying here as Gordon Appleton goes with a long smoky burnout. And this is Håkan Nilsson from Sweden. Well, it's a car we haven't seen in the UK before, that silver and black Mustang. Beautiful cars from the 60s, side-by-side qualifying from these two classic American autos, big block engines. And 6.97 for Gordon. He eventually eclipsed that running a 6.95, got the number 2 qualifying spot. Behind this man, Alan Packman, who's had problems all day, eventually came out and put in the number 1 qualifying spot late at night. Now here's a man who's been having problems all day, Neil Taylor, another man who puts in a qualifier late at night. He's going to tell us about pro-modified cars.
The majority of cars use a fiberglass replica shell. They need to be stretched and widened or narrowed accordingly to suit the class regulations. We have a maximum wheelbase, minimum wheelbase constraints. In principle, in pro-modified racing, the body shell is purely cosmetic. The doors have to be operable, but again, are purely cosmetic, non-load-bearing parts of the car. And we tend to reduce the height of these cars quite significantly from standard to reduce the coefficient of drag, make the cars nice and slippery so we can pick up more mile an hour effectively at the top end of the racetrack. Wings are an essential part of the design of these cars, either a conventional spoiler, a flat plate deck lid if you like, or indeed an airfoil section fitted to the rear of the car to apply downforce. It's hard to imagine that at 190 miles an hour we're still sometimes spinning the tyres. These particular cars, we have a specialist gearbox with a multitude of levers to operate during the course of a run. So everybody drives the course one-handed with their left hand, and it's certainly quite busy in these vehicles for 6.5 to 7 seconds.
We always say they're 200 miles an hour, 6-second cars. How big an engine do you have to run those sort of times?
This particular car has 705 cubic inches, or 11.6 litres in the new money. Anything above 600 cubic inches with a couple of nitrous oxide injection kits in a car that weighs maybe 2,500 pounds will be able to run those sort of speeds.
Well, also we had Supergas here at the Doorslammers, and Supergas, of course, the index class, where they look to run 9.9 on the quarter mile with reaction times of 0.40, and we joined this in Saturday's qualifying. Phil Druitt, Psycho Phil, with the fat full power XR3i, closest to the camera. Furthest away, Alex Nicol, standing in, or sitting in as he, for Tony Granston. A 0.44 reaction time for both of these very experienced drivers, and a 9.90 spot on the index for Alex Nicol, only made him the number 2 qualifier. Here's a sight we don't often see in Supergas racing. That was Roger Butterworth with his 50s Chevrolet Bel Air. And here's a man who's really been causing a stir in 1996. Mr. Entertainment, they call him, John Webster, in the Mercury Comet. You can see why. A huge wheel stand every which way but straight. And will that slow him down? He's looking for 990. If he runs quicker, it's no good. He's too quick, 9.75. And let's just watch that again. John is in control, or is he? Every which way but straight when he lands that Mercury Comet back on terra firma again. Frank Mason furthest away from the camera, Tim Adam closest to the camera, and it was Tim Adam who eventually took the number 1 spot from Alex Nicol with a run of 9.90. This is Sean Saunders, a 240 ZX Datsun, just newly imported in 1996 from America. Sean has raced in the States, and running alongside him, the Vauxhall Ventura of returning Supergas racer Kurt Hinchcliffe in the Northern Hustler. Here's John Hogarth. He's a new man in the sport, just starting to make a little bit of a name for himself. And running alongside him, Antti Kianumi from Finland, one of our overseas visitors, but big problems for Hogarth on the start line, and that's damaged his racing chances. Explodes the transmission, as the crewman can testify here, picking up all the bits and pieces. This is Rich Kinsey with the uphill struggle Camaro, running once again alongside the man who ended up the number 1 qualifier, Tim Adam. So in Supergas racing, our top 8 looked like this. The 2 leading contenders, Tim Adam and Alex Nicol, both with 9.905, and Tim Adam only being the number 1 qualifier because of a higher mile per hour. Well, the wild Ford Anglers are here with us this weekend, and one of the men who is going so quickly now down into the 7-second bracket is Dan Cockerell. Can you see yourself going any quicker then?
I'd like to see it run probably 780. About a 780, something like that, maybe a 770.
Around about 175 miles an hour.
I'd like to keep the terminal speed down a little bit if I could, but I don't think it's going to happen. About 175, yeah.
Sounds frightening to me.
Sounds frightening to me. You're going to be driving it.
Well, let's just watch that run from Dan Cockerell as he puts in a qualifying run. You can see trying to control that machine, real difficult. Let's have a look at some of the other classes that are here with us for the Doorslammers. Welcome back. This is the International Doorslammers here at the end of September at Sandapod, and the rain is not doing us any favours at all. All of the racing has been abandoned here, and that gives us a little bit of a chance to have a look at what's been happening in the world of pro modified racing throughout the 1996 season. Well, here are our main 8 competitors for 1996, last year's champion Dave Mingay. By the time we've reached the main event at the back end of May at Sandapod, the man leading the challenge was Alan Packman.
The car was built in 1988 in Sweden by Håkan Everstedt. It's Rebecca Everstedt's husband. Raced it in Pro Stock. I've really got to know the car inside out. Not had to modify it a lot, just keep it updated really, you know, chassis, etc. Not just oxides tuning. Fitted 2 years ago, a 700-inch Hemi. It's a very potent piece. The other racers would not begin to believe the power it's got. Having said that, days like today, the track's not very good. Could be a hindrance, maybe not, we'll see.
Well, let's move straight along into the final, and Alan Packman, you can call me Al, sits there patiently while Nick Davis tries the psychological trick once more. Is it going to work with Al Packman, the man who has been previously 2 times champion in this class? I don't think so. Reaction time's very, very good for Nick Davis, a 47 to a 53 for Al Packman, but it's Alan Packman who does it again and records the quickest run of the whole weekend at 6.92, 202 miles per hour. But it was a good run for Nick Davis, his quickest ever at 7.12, but the terminal speed of 193 miles per hour tells its own story, just not enough power. But it's just the start of this season, and Alan Packman knows now he is going to have to work hard to try and get that #1 plate back this year. Well, if we have a look at the points and the placings, we can see that Al Packman already is some 530 points in front of second place man Gordon Appleton. Andy Robinson laying there in 3rd spot, Neil Taylor in 4th. Well, the next race on the calendar is the Summer Internationals from Avon Park. The first time that these cars have raced in this fashion here at this track. And Alan Packman finds himself in the final against Gordon Appleton. Gordon, you described driving your car to me as a Rolls Royce. Now, I got a funny idea that there's not many Rolls Royces go from 0 to 100 miles per hour in about 1.2 seconds and have an individual gear lever for each gear.
No, you're probably right there. I don't think I've seen one. When I say it drives like a Rolls Royce, is a tribute really to Andy Robinson race cars who built the car. The car is just so straight, it's like a drive in the park.
At 200 miles per hour, this car, to you, is arrow straight.
The car is so straight, and it is like driving a Rolls Royce.
Both of these guys run into the 6-second bracket. Both of them very much like to win. Gordon Appleton was a man who made his way up into the world of Pro Modified. From Supergas, Al Packman was a street car racer. Well, this is very, very close. It could be anybody's, but it's Packman who just gets the win at the top end, runs an incredible 6.89, 203 miles per hour, and just behind him, Gordon Appleton at 7.08 at 198 miles per hour, and that just reinforces Packman's position at the top of the Pro Mod pile this year. Well, the racing is very, very close, but in the points, Gordon Appleton now sinks to some 800 points behind Alan Packman, and Andy Robinson hesitantly there in 3rd spot with 1,010. Well, we now move back to Santapod for the 1996 Cannonball at the start of July, and what a change around it is this time, because it's not Packman and Appleton in the final, but Englefield and Davis. So it's the final of Pro Modified. And it's interesting that the champion, the current championship leader, is out. That's Al Packman. Gordon Appleton, 2nd place in the championship, is out. Andy Robinson, 3rd place, is out. It's Nick Davis against Bert Englefield. So both of these guys could really do with the points here in the championship. This will bring about a nice change at the top. And Nick Davis, his first time into the finals, as it is for the man in the opposing lane, Bert Englefield. And Nick Davis jumps the lights. Nick Davis is out. Bert Englefield takes the win and cruises through 7.70 at 164 miles an hour. You can see it so clearly there before the green had come on. Nick Davis jumped across the start line, means he's out of contention, and Bert Englefield takes the win. So at the end of the cannonball, Nick Davis moves up into third spot. Alan Packman still there in front though, 800 points in front of Gordon Appleton. Well, those points hardly changed at all for the Summer Nationals. The Summer Nationals was rained off in 1996, the first round only having been completed. But the top three are still Packman, Appleton and Davis, as we take a look at the Nitro Olympics from Germany. This was a non-points scoring round for the Pro Mods, but the star of the show was Great Britain's Andy Robinson. Well, Wacker got through to this round with a run of 8.29. And Andy Robinson, yeah, the crowds love these smoky burnouts. Andy Robinson with his beautiful 800 series Rover Coupe got into this round with a run of 6.97. And once again, I think Peter Wacker was trying to get into stage first before Andy Robinson got there, but Robinson wasn't having any of it. Charges through, taking the win, 7.08. And that was a convincing win from the man who builds the car and then races it himself. Well, for the final round of the Pro Modifieds 1996 season, we're here at the World Finals at Sandipod in the middle of September. This is how they shape up, with once again the #1 qualifier being Alan Packman in the Granada Scorpio. There is a huge crowd here this weekend, the biggest crowd we've seen at Sandipod all year long to watch these battles going on. So the first pair coming out, we're going to have a look at the final 8. Neil Taylor with his Chevrolet Lumina. Here he goes with these long smoky burnouts that the crowd absolutely love. And in the other lane, Nick Davis with his Oldsmobile Cutlass. So both English drivers in very much American cars, but the frustration on Neil Taylor's face says it all there. His car breaks down, he's out of the race, it's Nick Davis on his own. And Nick, single carburettor on this machine, runs through quickest ever, 7.04, 198 miles per hour. He's going to be really, really happy with this one. Once again, smoky side-by-side burnouts. And Henry Houston from Holland joining in the challenge here, and he's away first in front of our #2 qualifier, Bert Englefield, but then he has a problem, and Englefield comes by him like a steam train, takes the win, 6.98. He's back into the sixes again, Bert Englefield. And Henry Houston, all he can do is just trickle over the line at 63 miles per hour. Well, the crowd really enjoying the Pro Mod Wars here. This puts Gordon Appleton with his final demand Camaro against the Hellraiser 4 Calibra of Dave Mingay, last year's champion, now running with an 11.4 litre engine in there. And just look at Appleton. Appleton goes by, takes the win. That was close. 6.95, 7.07 for Dave Mingay. They were so very, very close all the way through there. Appleton just won it on the finish line. Well, Al Packman with the Granada Scorpio meets this man, Michael Cheeley. And this could be the upset here. If Packman doesn't get through this round, then he stands a chance of being overtaken in the 1996 championship by Gordon Appleton. Mick Cheeley has got to try and put him away. The lights turn green. Wheels up in the air for these two, but it's Packman. Cheeley going every which way but straight. Alan Packman takes the win, 7.01. And you can just see the torque of these engines as they lift those front wheels away from the start line. Mike Cheeley just losing momentarily control of the car. Alan Packman takes the win, and I think that has secured his championship placing for 1996. Well, we advance on into the semi-finals. Davis against Packman, Englefield against Appleton. And the first man with the burnout is Alan Packman from North London, the man who makes furniture when he's not racing, against this man, the stockbroker from Berkshire, This is Nick Davis. And eyes on the track there. Concentration personified from the big boss man, Al Packman. But he's looking for a clean sweep here. He wants to win this race. There's a massive crowd here, as we've already said. And he would like to be the one to take the laurels here in Pro Modified. But it's Davis away first. My goodness me. Davis gets away first, a much better start line reaction for him, and it's Nick Davis who takes the win for the first time into the 6-second bracket, 6.93, totally against the form book, and he runs in front of Al Packman's 7.43. So Packman goes out, but goes out on a high. And here's our second semi-final. This is Gordon Appleton with the Camaro, Bert Englefield with the Toyota. Now then, sitting in second spot in the championship at the moment is this man, Gordon Appleton, and he was hoping that Alan Packman was going to be knocked out earlier on in today's racing. That would have allowed him a chance to get that #1 spot. So here they are at the start line. Appleton and Englefield, and Appleton better start line reaction of 0.51 to Bert Englefield's 0.61, and at the top end it was again so very, very close. Gordon Appleton takes the win, 6.99 to a lose-out 6.93, and that was lost for Bert Englefield on the start line. That 1/10 of a second, he just couldn't make it up on the run. So that sets up our final. Gordon Appleton with the Camaro, running against another GM stablemate, Nick Davis, with his Oldsmobile Cutlass. Well, what a fine end to the year this is proving to be between our Pro Mod drivers. The crowd really warming to this as they come up to the start line. This could be absolutely anybody's as they move up into the staging beam that control the start line sequence, and it's a red light. Nick Davis knew he had to get away in front of Gordon Appleton, but he pulls a red light. He went before the green came on, and it's Gordon Appleton back into the sixes again, 6.91, 198 miles per hour. Well, Nick Davis really tried so hard to take that win, but Gordon Appleton secured himself in the #2 spot in the championship behind Alan Packman. Third spot, Nick Davis. Last year's champion ended up in the #7 spot. That was Dave Mingay. But let's hail the champion for 1996, Alan Packman, Pro Modified champion.